This game will reinvent the Souls-like genre. Okay, wait, that is not my claim, but this is the marketing message behind Moonlight Studios' No Rest for the Wicked, currently in early access. I've been really enjoying this game a ton, but I want to talk about how I interpret this message, and you can decide if it's reinventing anything. First, the most obvious. What if you took Elden Ring's third-person camera and made it isometric? If you've played Diablo, you'll feel right at home here. I personally love this perspective, but it's really important to have good camera work or it does not work. And to also combine this with vertical exploration is no easy task. But each area I've explored has felt handcrafted and thoroughly tested, so you don't feel like you're missing out on anything that is directly in front of your character. As you're getting used to this perspective and the combat, you will inevitably die. But death does not cause you to drop souls or an equivalent currency used to level up. Instead, you lose about 5% durability on your equipment. I think this is a fair trade-off for now. Death feels punishing, but it has much less effect on your overall progression and feels a lot less defeating than in a Souls game. The combat seems to heavily encourage weapon swapping, and I found a lot of success early on mixing a hefty greatsword with agile double daggers. But the system also seems to discourage a full caster playthrough. Using a staff still requires you to get in close and bonk your enemies over the head to generate focus in order to cast spells. Healing is also different. You will no longer use Estus Blast, but food ingredients to craft meals that heal you and give you buffs. I'm neutral on this right now. It feels a lot like farming blood vials in Bloodborne. Not a deal breaker, but it could end up being pretty tedious. You also can't rest at a grace or a bonfire to heal yourself, but this also means that enemies don't respawn when you touch one. The map features a dynamic fog of war system that creeps back into areas after a long period of time where you haven't visited them. It spawns new enemies, new resources, and new loot to find. Loot is RNG heavy. Even the first weapon you find is random. I happened to start with double daggers in my first playthrough, but when I made a new character, I found a claymore at first. There is also RNG in acquiring boss weapons. I got lucky on the first boss before I learned that it wasn't guaranteed. This makes finding the weapon you want a little bit more difficult, but you can create new realms at will and then move your character over there to farm a boss again, or find other randomized loot. To make up for the RNG, there is a crafting system where you can craft armor and weapons and then enchant and infuse them however you like. This is done in the hub of Sacrament, which is another area of progression where you build up the city and its vendors so that they can provide you with other upgrades and more items. I'm a fan of this, but I could also see this being a little bit tedious, having to collect all the raw materials for the upgrades and then all the materials for crafting as well. Not to mention, it also takes time for the projects to complete once you've given all the resources over. It's a shame this is in early access, but I have been incredibly impressed with what I've seen so far. The art style is beautiful and unique, and everything I've played feels polished, aside from some poor optimizations. Once this is fully released, I think it will be a real competitor in the Souls genre.